Hey everyone, I'm Rachel,
And I'm Jen, and welcome to Devilish Bookworms, the podcast.
where we read and review books and release episodes every Tuesday.
This week we have The Sapphire Heiress by Ella Leon.
Yay! Mae Blackthorne may be a governess, but at one time she was the wealthy daughter of a rich shipbuilder. Watching her family fall apart and her position in society fall in the blink of an eye should have broken her. But a handsome stranger and the secrets he brings with him will prove that she is so much more than how others see her. Dun dun
Dun, dun,
dun.
dun.
So this is actually a new book that's not released yet, and when it comes to trigger warnings, n- uh,
I
I
love
mean,
your little note, Death.
death question mark. Which others did you pick up?
Um, I would say definitely Death. Maybe a little manipulation slash like narcissism, but I can't even say abuse.
Yeah, I guess we could leave it at that. We'll get more into it later on.
So about this cover, guys, because it's actually really gorgeous. There, I don't know what about like just women in like poofy Victorian dresses just kind of gets me like all giddy, but I really do love it.
Women in poofy dresses makes you giddy.
Yes, because I want to be a lady in a poofy dress for like 5 minutes. I don't want to, I can't do more. Like, I don't do dresses, so it would be nice though.
Yeah, it does give off. I wouldn't say bodice ripper because this one is more of like an off page, like closed door. But it's romantic. Yeah, the cover's romantic.
Yes. With a little bit of piracy in the background, a
A
little
little
pirate
bit of
ship.
piracy. She actually says that it's like Pirates of the Caribbean meets Jane Eyre, and I actually totally got that. I thought that was a perfect kind of connection.
Yeah, I have to agree with that because at first I was like, well, where the heck are the pirates? And then I was like, ah, there we go.
You
So,
could even say it was with maybe a little Dorian Gray not thrown in there as well.
oh, look at you go.
I love Dorian Gray. So when we first meet May, she is what? She's riding on her horse through the woods and she comes across this guy and he's like, "Hey, it's raining. Why don't I take you back to my castle?" And she's like, "Okay." And I'm gonna admit, I would have thought that with the time period and the fact that she was like alone in the woods and is some random dude in the woods, I would have thought that she would have been a little bit more concerned. Um, Especially since he took off his shirt when he got back to his house.
Yeah, like listen, I I all I kept thinking, I was like, are we sure this isn't gonna be like a Hansel and Gretel type of situation, except like she's the one that's gonna get tossed in the fire and something. I like maybe even Beauty and the Beast, like lock her away in his tower. I don't know, but I wasn't sure where the heck it was gonna go, but her to be so accepting, weird. Like I would have went around him on my horse, but she did not.
She did not. She was like, sounds good. And here's the thing, that's why I'll never find myself in a Beauty and the Beast situation. Which, by the way, do you watch like okay, I'm unfortunately a comment reader and I'll look at a video and I'll read the comments and then I'll look at a video, read the comments. And
Mhm.
have you ever read the comments of like normal people when they're like on a Beauty and the Beast type post? They're so like they're so rude. Okay, if you like Stockholm syndrome. Well, I do. Okay. I
Oh
think it's
my
romantic.
gosh.
Leave me alone.
There are thousands of people that would agree with you. So I mean,
Judgy McJudgerson.
I
Sure,
love
she
the
only wants his money and the library, guys.
I was just gonna say, I love the new memes going around that are like, "Oh, you're gonna offer me free rent and a place to stay and a library? Like, I'm down."
I mean, I'm just here for the library. I'll pay rent. I pay my own way. Anyway.
Fine.
Anywho.
So yes, as we were saying, like she's in this forest. She goes to this guy's house. He rips off his shirt, and then all of a sudden she's like, maybe I should go. And it was just like, dude, you've been here for 3 seconds. He magically whipped up a pot of tea for you, and now you're just gonna disappear? Like, what the heck?
Yeah. He started undressing. Yes, it's time to go.
I think she should have been gone before that, but who's saying? And especially like her only concern was the fact that, she shouldn't be caught and her employers will be upset. Like it wasn't a matter of like her being in a bad situation, possibly getting murdered. No, her employers might get upset.
I guess this is a good segue into one of the things that I had not issue with, but one of the things that I think that I would have connected more with if the stakes were a little bit higher. So it's definitely, I would say, it's you know a little bit more of a maybe a feel good book. Would you not necessarily a feel good book, but it's not incredibly dark. It's there are deep elements to it, but they're kind of not explored deeply. I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. So it's like I almost feel as though sometimes the stakes could have been a little bit higher. At one point she catches him somewhere, rustling through some things, and he says, "Oh, I'll put, this is a mighty shiny watch I have. It would be a shame if I would put it in your pocket and say that you stole from me." And like, yes, that would have gotten her in trouble, but like not as much as if he had said, "I will tell your employers that like you came on to me," or like I feel as though sometimes the temperature could have been cranked up a little bit and the stakes could have been higher because the fixings were all there. And it's not necessarily even anything that I'm mad at. I just feel like it could have been a lot more like dramatic, you know? Because the couple times where he's like, "Oh, remember that watch I said I'd plant on you?" I'm like, "Okay," and like I'll tell him myself that I stole your watch. Like, sure, my hand might get cut off, or I don't know. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do because in my opinion it was a little slow paced, and if I think if it would have had like a little bit more uh as you said, like a little more zing or give me something to really stress about, and I think I might have been like a little more like, ooh, like what's gonna happen, you know?
Yeah, like it was a very pleasant story to read. But
Hmm.
I think that if the temperature had been dialed up a little bit, like there were very real like life and death situations that happened, and it was kind of like, okay, the best way that I can describe it is, have you ever heard of the show Heartland? It's on Netflix.
I've never seen it.
Okay. It's one of these shows that's like they deal with very intense topics sometimes, but kind of in a like a very Canadian type of way.
Okay.
Very like God, what is I can't even think of a good way to explain it. It's like you could have leaned into it more. You could have leaned into the danger more. You could have made the highs higher and the lows lower because the content was there. We just didn't lean into it.
So is it kind of like Desperate Housewives when they have like those moments of Orson might be the killer and he might be after Bree, but it wasn't like that dramatic. It was a little dramatic, but it was like, oh, it's fine.
It was
Like,
like a dull knife blade to me.
okay.
It was like you could hurt someone with it, but like, like there were parts in the book where she was caught or she was in danger, and it was like it didn't hurt, you know?
So that actually kind of brings me to a point. And this point, it kind of goes along with what you're saying, because the dangerous parts weren't even that they were dangerous, but they could have used a little more oomph. Like there was one point where it was her, the man from the woods, his partner, and two goons. Okay. And they're all going downstairs into this vault. And in it, she writes that there was one of the goons that goes into the vault. Well, May closes the vault and the guy ends up dying in there. And Locke is actually wrestling with one of the other goons, and May and Ellsworth are fighting.
Real quick for everyone, Locke is the man that she met in the beginning who is kind of like her ally, and Ellsworth is kind of the villain of the piece that they have to work with in order to accomplish a goal.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I thought I actually explained who Locke was. I did it in my head.
If I had a nickel.
I know, right? But it she actually stated that the goon and Locke were fighting, Ellsworth and May were fighting, except there was Locke was supposedly fighting with two people, but it wasn't literally possible because one of them was dead. He was fighting one, and Ellsworth and May were fighting.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, there was literally a phantom person in the whole like scene because it was like if there was only two goons, May and Ellsworth and Locke, but two of them were occupied with fighting each other. One of them is dead, and the other two are fighting each other. How are two people holding back Locke? And I'm
Okay.
like I was a little confused at the situation, so I reread it and I was like, no, I literally that guy died. There shouldn't be another guy holding this guy back. Like, what is happening? But at the same time, that's one of the like the perilous moments where like I should have been more hooked with the fact of everybody being in so much danger
Mhm.
instead of worrying about how many men are holding back Locke.
I think no, that's very valid, and I think part of the reason that I can see for me that may have been the reason is the writing was very pretty. It was very beautiful writing. It was very you know, it felt true to the time period. Some of the
Mhm.
dialogue did read a little bit strange. Like it's too expository. Um like sometimes the sentences felt a little clunky, but the writing was very pretty. But I think that it left out some emotion. Like like for instance, when they're riding on the horse and there's some tension between Locke and May, and they're both starting to develop feelings, and they're on a horse. So that means that she's sitting in front of him, and the author does make note that like she could feel him pressed up against her back. But I feel like if there was more emotion in there, like if there was more angst in there, kind of a little bit more tension, that's what I think was missing a lot of the times. So like in that one scene, instead of it just being like, oh, she felt him pressed up against her back, if we had turned the knob up a little bit, and made us feel that his arms around her, kind of like feeling his closeness and how it's affecting her, and all of that. I think that if we had done that there, and then also turned it up in the scary bits so that we could feel her fear, turned it up in the happy bits where we can really feel her elation, like I think that the writing was really, really, really beautiful. But I think that without the emotion in it, it kind of, for me, lost a little bit of that connection. There was a little bit of a disconnect between me and the characters.
No, I absolutely feel that because I felt like when she was in the library with him, or no, not in the library, they were in the theater together. I
The
felt like
theater.
I felt like there was finally emotion in it, and I was finally getting into their portion of the story,
Mm-hmm.
and then they were cut short. And I was like, but wait, like this is the one scene that I felt like actually like I was connecting with the characters. Like they were, I don't know, they were finally making me feel something.
And that is honestly probably just very much an us thing, because I connect more with characters and with books when there is that emotion, like make me feel it, make me feel when they're in pain, make me feel when um they're happy. And I think that's just, I just like being able to feel it. I like that dramatic, get me inside of the characters' heads. But that's not saying that the book was bad, because I don't think it was. I think that if someone wants to read a book about a nice story with a happy ending, where there's not a lot of, like I said, this is a closed door romance. So there's not, there's a lot of people that don't like to read certain things. And I think that this is totally the book for them, you know?
Oh yeah, I
They,
actually I have a customer that I think would really really enjoy this book because she doesn't like the in your face smexy scenes and all that. So,
mm-hmm. And
yeah.
also it's I can see an audience for, maybe you have a really stressful life and you want to have like a nice story, like a just a nice kind of like hallmarky type, feel good story. I think that this one totally delivers. It sure there's stuff in it, life and death things, um but it's not written in a way that breaks your heart,
Not at all.
which to me is a detriment, like for me, like for books that I would be like, give me that, but like is really good for a lot of readers.
Yeah, I mean there was even points that I've even found that I laughed at. There was one point where she said that she resented the very thought of marriage, a feeling so strong it frightened her. When had she become so bitter? When exactly has her life become so hopeless that even love seemed dismal? And it says the day that she became a governess.
I can feel that. I found one, how you were talking about the guy that was like a phantom guy and he was there and he wasn't there.
Yeah.
So for me, it was the time. So at one point, Mr. Rosewood said that so this is the man who owns the house that Mae is the governess of. So he's her boss. And he says that they bought the house 2 years ago, but then Mae is talking about how she had been about how she had had rich person confidence a year ago until her fortune was taken away. But her okay, so then that means so then the so then the Rosewoods had bought the house 2 years ago, but she lost her fortune 1 year ago. When exactly did all of this take place?
Yeah, and then at the end of the book it actually says 2 years or 3 years from I think it was Ellsworth's point of view. I think he
Mm-hmm.
was talking like, yeah, 3 years ago you could have married me and you didn't. And I'm like, wait a second. Now that you're saying this, I'm like, is it 1 year, 2 year, 3 years?
Not entirely sure. but that's okay. That's okay.
It is.
um, there were a couple like technical issues, um, things that I normally bring up. I will say that they were easy to kind of um ignore. Like at one point he says, what's wrong? You've gone still after the writing already said that she'd gone still. So it was like
Mm.
um redundant. I don't know why I'm so picky with those.
No, because I had found a redundancy as well. She was having a memory of what her mother had said. And it says, she had said love was something one must have faith in. And in quotes, it says, doubt it once and you stand to ruin it forever. Doubt can fester, she had said, till it grows into a monster strong enough to conquer anyone. Now, the only reason I bring that up is at the beginning of the sentence, it says, she had said. And then it stops in the middle of the quote just to say that she had said again.
Yeah.
And it was like, it absolutely wasn't needed for such a short quote. I mean, I could see if it was like a lengthy quote and you needed to say, like, and she continued or something along that line, but it was such a brief statement that you
Hmm.
could have just said, she had said, blah, 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 and that be done with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there were some of those in there. But yeah. Jen, did you have a favorite character?
So with this one, I actually didn't have a favorite character. And if I was to pick one, it would be Gambit,
Okay.
which is the horse, because he actually listened and he had a little spunk. Um, but I mean, the characters were okay, but it just like Miss Rosewood, she kind of like was one of those characters that kind of like pissed me off.
I hated her. I wanted her to
Yeah,
die in a well.
so did I, because I'm sorry, there was zero character development with her. And on
She was
top
a
of that,
twat.
thank you. Took the words right out of my mouth.
She was a twat. I concur.
Yeah, so I mean, I really didn't have anybody to really love. I mean, Locke was okay,
Hmm.
but even he was like back and forth.
I would say he was probably my favorite. I dug him.
Okay. I can totally see that for you though.
I'm a sucker for a pirate.
I know you are.
What about favorite quotes? Did you have any of those?
I did have a couple. Um,
Okay.
one of them was, you don't know the truths of the world as I do. It's one where honest men starve and dishonest men feast, and sometimes violence is the only choice we've got.
Boom.
Yep. Second one was fearless. I'd sooner be dead. I have fear, just not enough to imprison me.
Boom.
And last and finally was foolish men never accept defeat, because facts. What about you?
Because facts. I have a couple. I have fascinating what shame can do to a man.
Mm,
Because when people feel shame or embarrassment, oh, those things make people do insane things. Um, what I mean to say is that I myself care not for rules, especially those that get in my way.
that doesn't surprise me. You have that one.
And then I don't know why I dug it. Actually, I'll read two more real quick.
Mhm.
One says marble walls rose an impressive 2 stories, and through lattice windows the moon hovered low in the twilight. I don't know, I just thought that was really pretty.
Mm.
And then this one I dug. I don't know why. I still don't know why. Normally I overanalyze everything. But it says so he cared for her, no matter how useless that was now.
Okay.
I don't know why.
I could
Anyway,
dig it.
what are your final thoughts?
I really didn't think it was a bad story. It could definitely use a bit of tweaking. especially with like chapter transitions and some of the redundancies. But honestly, she has a really good storyline. I just think it needs a little oomph.
Yeah, my overall opinion, I thought that it was a very entertaining read. I thought that it was very pretty. The way that it was written, the language used. Um, and I think that there are definitely some people out there who are gonna love it.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely a market for this book for sure.
Life is hard, man, and like there's so much going on, and like sometimes you just need a sweet book, um, you know, with a handsome stranger and a hidden treasure to just take you away from all of it, you know?
And some revitalizing solution and a stone.
So, The Sapphire Heiress was written by Ella Leon and will be released January 24th, 2025. It is part of the Silver Order series, which will also include The Crystal Alchemist and The Emerald Enchantress. You can find all the author's socials on her website, which is ELLALEON.WEEBLY.com. Jen, what are we reading next?
Next book will be Bloodbound by Renette Rowland.
Yay! Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Devilish Bookworms.
If you want to chat with us, be sure to check us out on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
You can also find our podcast on YouTube and wherever else you listen to podcasts.
We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.